Mom, I read a stat in preparing for the show, and that is that loneliness is now being compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of health impact.
Our seniors are not going to be great at admitting their deficiencies.
But how powerful that simple word you just said is pride.
We have to be intentional with this. If you're going to leave them at home, you have to be intentional. If not, you'll lose them along the way.
Meals are such a big deal for the senior population. That's one of the things they look forward to the most, a really good lunch or a really good dinner.
You have identified some of the barriers that you have now, but you not only identified them, you've done something about it.
Sure did. That's exactly right. To go get some ice cream.
Yeah. And it's so exciting to be a part of.
It'd be amazing.
It really is. It's one of the biggest things I think we've learned.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us today. I do want to say at the beginning of the show, make sure you check out our podcast channels, wherever you get your podcasts, and check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Give us a like, a follow, and subscribe. Engage with the page. Leave a comment. Tell us what you enjoy about the show. It goes a long ways in helping to promote and get our content out to even more people. But without further ado, you know the drill. Grab your favorite cup of coffee and pull up a seat and join us right here on Around the Table with Vickie. I'm your co-host, Chris Runk, and across the table from me, as always, is my mother, your host, Vickie Runk.
Hello, everybody. It's been really a great couple of days talking about senior-related things in our community. We were just with a large group of seniors last night, and so I felt like it's pertinent to kind of bring this topic up because I keep hearing it over and over again. Today, we're going to be talking about something that doesn't always get talked about because it's kind of dark and not a lot of people like to admit it. And it's just simply loneliness. And so not only just being alone, but truly feeling unseen, unheard, and disconnected.
And Mom, what is alarming about this subject is it's not just affecting seniors, but seniors are absolutely at the center of this epidemic.
It certainly is. And, it's not also something that you can just look at someone and say, oh, my goodness, she looks so, so lonely, because most of the time an elderly person looks a certain way anyway. It's really spending time with that person and understanding that there's a lot of hurt that's causing her to feel isolated, even though she's surrounded by people. There's different kinds of loneliness. So there's the mental health part of this, which is, truly a diagnosis that we can say leads into depression, and that's clinical, and we can get that diagnosed from a local psychiatrist, a neurologist, a gerontologist, people that truly understand the field of aging. But then there's that feeling of like, no matter if I am with people, I still feel disconnected, and that's called social loneliness. It's social disconnect. And that's where we as a community really play a part in how we treat our seniors, whether they're in the grocery store and they need a little help. How many times have we gone into a store and automatically, I think it's just because of the way we're wired, but we'll find someone that's elderly and needs a little help at the register or needs some help gathering their things. And so all of us can play a part in helping with this terrible, terrible feeling that our seniors feel.
Mom, I read a stat in preparing for the show, and that is that loneliness is now being compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of health impact. And that is staggering.
Yeah. In 2024, there was about 33% of the United States adults aged 50 to 80 that reported at one point or another having this anxiety of feeling alone. And that just spills into so many different things that we deal with seniors. And it also can mask a lot of different things. And so you really have to be tuned into this.
And Mom, in preparing for today's topic, one of the main discussion points is that loneliness the main transition from independence to then dependence. And we see that a lot, in some healthcare settings. So kind of talk us through how families can see those and pick up that point and maybe help mom and dad earlier.
Well, I think we have to sit and think about what all is that senior going through. They moved from their home of so many years where they've made their memories if they're going into an independent living community. And even if they're still home independently, they've lost so many of their memories that they've had. Their adult children don't visit as often. Their grandchildren have a whole new set of things in their life that they're busy doing. And so the loss of a spouse, the loss of friends, the loss of just the routine that they've known their entire life. You know what you feel like when you don't have your everyday routine, and it really can spill into, oh my goodness, what do I do next? Well, then with someone that's lonely, they have nothing to look forward to. And so, the whole thing of the technology gap. You think about what all we know on our level. Well, fast forward someone that's 20 or 30 years older than us. I know I have a difficult time trying to gain the knowledge that you guys have with technology.
I will say you do a pretty good job. I'll give you credit. You do pretty well.
So that makes you feel isolated too, because it's like, my goodness, I can't live in that world that they're in. They've got all those phones and they've got their computers, and although they may know the basics of how to get around, it's still difficult. Their brain is not as young as it used to be.
Well, they just simply, I think they also just get embarrassed
and give up
to ask for help. Where a lot of, us younger generation, we're looking to help, and it's fun to sit there and explain and talk and go throughout the wonderful things that are happening in today's world. But I do think sometimes it's just simply, I'm embarrassed to ask, right?
Sure, because we still need to remember, and I say this a lot on this show, our seniors are not going to be great at admitting their deficiencies. They want you to still think that they've got it all under control so that you don't move them yet again, because they want to make sure that you understand, I'm fine. I don't need anything. My life is just grand. And even if you offered me something better, I'm okay where I'm at, because they're used to things and they know where everything is at home, and they know their routine. Even though it may not be great, they still know where all of their life is going to fall in that day. And the speculation of going to something different, something harder for them to understand, they're going to constantly tell you as an adult child, now I'm fine. Don't you worry about me. I don't want to be a burden to anyone. And that's when you as an adult child or a community neighbor need to step in and say, I know you know how to do this, and it's great that you do. So let's go together today and do something just for you. And that's really intentional on an adult child's level, that they're spending that kind of time with them, because they can see that they're lonely. They can see some, regression on their appearance, their level of excitement when you call. If you're just getting a dead, like, I'm fine, I'm going to watch Wheel of Fortune and then go to bed, and they're not engaging with you. They're not asking you, how was your day? What's the grandchildren doing? How's the new puppy? Have you potty trained him yet? If there's no engagement and it's just flat answers, we've got some loneliness going on. That's a good little clue for people. If you're not going to visit mom on a regular basis and you're only depending on the telephone, remember, if there is no conversation on their end, we have some loneliness and disconnection going on.
And Mom, you just said a key word, and I think we see it quite often, and I think a lot of folks do as well, and maybe they don't realize it, but how powerful that simple word you just said is: pride.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in a senior. They, like you said, they simply just don't want to admit, or they're scared to ask for help. So going the extra mile, being that person that's willing to sit down and say, hey, what do you need today? What can I help you with? Because that word, pride, tends to get in the way quite a bit in our senior population.
Well, even with my parents, my poor mom and dad gets thrown under the bus so many times on this show. But if I say to them, I have a couple of hours, would you like to go to lunch today? One of the biggest answers that I get back was, well, we don't have to. It's almost like, we know your time is limited, so you don't have to feel like you've got to do that.
They feel like they're a burden.
Right. So what I say back to them is, but I really want to. Can we make these 2 hours work? Then I'll usually get, well, we've already eaten. Oh my goodness, my mother's famous for that. We've already eaten. I come back again because it's not about the meal for me.
It's about the
It's the
time.
time. I have a 2-hour window. Well, let's go get a dessert then. If you've already eaten, let me eat because I haven't, and you get a dessert. And then afterwards, if it's not a dessert there that you want, I'll go through Monkey Joe's and I'll get you and Dad an ice cream to take home
Or
with
Dairy
you.
Queen. We're
Or
on
Dairy
a Dairy Queen
That's
kick right
right.
now.
So there are ways to combat a lot of those resistant flags that they try to put up to you, because they will. They don't want to be a burden. They also want to remind you that they're completely independent and they don't need you to interject into their day, because if you start doing that, then that may lead to a discussion of moving to an assisted living facility or moving to a different location. And they want you to understand that they're fine just where they are. Most of the time, they're not.
Mom, another big topic I know is simply just especially folks that are living alone or a widow. Transportation alone,
Yeah.
that topic can create a lot of loneliness and isolate someone, especially if they live in rural areas.
Right. Last night we were with a group of seniors, and one of the things that I so loved was connecting with a lady, and I won't say her name, but she had lost her spouse 2 years ago. And if we started to talk about what her spouse did, and you were with me, tears came into her eyes. Number one, she missed him, and we were able to pat her on the back and let her know we understood that. He was a great man, so we were able to listen to all of his accomplishments. And she needed that time to list all of his accomplishments. And it was amazing, because you can find out so many things about people's lives and what they did, and you finally realize you're standing in front of someone that's quite amazing.
Absolutely.
But if you just looked at her from an outsider, you wouldn't have known that she had done so many great things. But the other thing that happened during that time was she introduced me to a lady that was standing next to her, and she said, "Now she's my ride." And I looked at her and I said, "Good for you," because she was a neighbor that lived across the street that just brought her to a function. And I said, "You are so smart." And I called her by her name, that you have identified some of the barriers that you have now, but you've not only identified them, you've done something about it. And if you're listening to me as a senior, don't let anything stand in your way that you can control that will not let you contribute to your life. Don't do that. Find ways around all of the barriers and boundaries that you've been put in, because you're not in that box as much as you think you are. And believe you me, there's people that care. So let's talk about churches and some of the involvement that they can have in our communities and in the lives of seniors, specifically with driving and transportation. I know that most churches will send someone to pick up that individual if they still need a ride to church. It's just simply that senior, that older individual, letting them know, "Hey, I'd still love to come to church, but I don't have a ride."
Yeah.
And I know, because I know most of the churches in this area. And if you're listening from all across the United States, I hope you could say the same about your church. There would be someone that they could send to transport you back to church. And it's important that you stay in church and you stay in the circles and connections that you've had your whole life, because that will combat a lot of the loneliness and social isolation that you feel.
I have it written right down right here, spiritual points, and we are created for community, not isolation. The church is meant to function as a body, not individuals, and fellowship is not optional. It is the foundation.
Absolutely. And that's good that we get that out today. So if you're a senior listening to us, please don't feel defeated. Don't get so bogged down with the woe is me syndrome that you can't continue to operate in life with joy, because there is a way to bring joy back into your life. Every loss should bring a different element of determination on your part to continue on until God calls you home, because He's got a reason that you're still here on earth. You find your reason.
And I think when we remove ourselves from community, we're stepping outside of God's design for our well-being.
Absolutely. And we can also be so effective with our seniors when we're around them just by asking simple questions. What can I do for you today? I had someone else ask me this last night where we were. What can I do for you? Now, I'm not well, I guess maybe I am a senior now, but I don't like to think of myself that way. But I'm not someone that needs a lot of help, right? Imagine if you're a senior citizen and you're widowed or widower, and someone came up to you and cared enough about you to say, "What can I do for you today?" Goodness, how would that make you? I know I felt joy when I thought, I've never had a lot of people say that to
Sure.
me. What can I do for you? It's usually, what are we going to do for someone else? But you find those givers in life, and that's who you need to connect with. What can I do for you? And the other thing that we got out of our conversation with that wonderful lady last night, Christopher, is you and I both left out of that room feeling more blessed than when we went in. And that should be your desire every day. If you're a community member and you have elderly that you have access to, you are missing a blessing if you're not reaching out.
Mom, on the topic of this, you being a senior, if you're not taking advantage of your McDonald's senior discount, I would say you're not a senior.
I'm not.
And I know
But
you're
your dad
not.
does. Your dad takes advantage of his senior discounts.
You heard it on the radio. Mom, when we see seniors rapidly decline once they do disengage and have isolation, have depression. So isolation leads to depression, cognitive decline, physical deterioration, and overall loss of purpose. And loss of purpose, not a good thing, right?
No, and there's a lot of different health issues that can pour into the loss of purpose. Number one, you're going to have hearing loss, and we've talked about that on the show. We should probably re-explore bringing that episode back on so people can understand the isolation that hearing loss causes, and it's major. You feel like you can't communicate with people because you can't hear what they're saying, and so you just sit back really, I know for a lady, you're prim and proper, and you're going, mm-hmm. Yes, and you have no idea what they're saying. So you really can't feel the engagement. It also leads to dementia and different causes of clinical depression because you just feel like you're not the same person.
Or possibly hearing things that aren't even being said at the table, right? I mean, how many times have we've heard things from grandparents maybe that you're like, wait a second. They have the wrong impression, and they just made it all up in their heads because they're reading lips wrong, or they're not hearing the whole story, and they think you said one thing when it's the completely opposite direction, right?
Right. Well, we have a little experience about this. I don't think my mother would mind being thrown back under the bus, but she recently got a new set of hearing aids from Forest Audiology. Shout out to the clinicians over there for taking such great care of my mom. But you went with her, and you were able you took hours with her that morning, and that was intentional. She's never forgotten it, and every time she has a hearing aid problem, she reaches out to you, or she goes back herself and has it taken care of. But it emboldened her. It helped her understand that this is important. My family loves me enough to make sure that I'm hearing everything they're saying because I'm getting 95% of it wrong. And we would laugh because things she would say back to us was really quite comical. And we lightened it a little bit because we were like, Mom, or you would say, Nanny, you can't go out in public and think somebody's asking you for biscuits when it's something totally different. I remember the biscuit joke, and it wasn't even near what we said. But we finally got her to understand the severity of hearing loss. Again, they don't want to admit that there's any kind of disability because they still have their life under control. They're able to operate alone. And my goodness, why would I want to wear a hearing aid, right? There's another big thing here that I think the community needs to be aware of, and it's something that I've really been diving into to see what kind of programs are out there for our local seniors. But poverty is another issue with our seniors. You know, life sometimes can hit you really hard, and there's different, of course, levels for seniors. And if they just don't have the money to go and do some of the social things, or they don't have the money to buy certain things, it can make some social isolation there. So if you're a church and you know there's someone in your community of church members that are elderly that's suffering from certain poverty levels, I would encourage you, before you go do for anybody out of the country, before you go to any other mission field, and this is what is so amazing to me with our churches, they'll talk about going to the mission field and they'll talk about planting churches, which I'm all for. I give to missions, we give to planting churches. But what we miss so many times in our local churches is that your mission field is right in front of you. It is in your congregation. It is in people that sit in the seats. It is in the widow that's still giving her tithe even though she can't buy food. And so I would encourage the senior pastors in the area or outside in the United States, now that we talk to so many different groups, reach out and see what you can do to help with some of those poverty issues that are so really, really relevant with our seniors.
Well, we just brought up what isolation leads to. Let's talk real quick about what community leads to, and that is engagement, improved health, renewed purpose, joy, and feeling loved and seen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness, yes. I think that being seen is one of the, after 33 years of doing this, whether I'm been on the floor helping give care, or I'm listening to my staff, or we're having meetings about how to improve our internal programs for seniors, that is one of the biggest common denominators that I hear from families and from seniors themselves is, I just don't feel seen anymore. And so, my goodness, if I got up every day and I felt like I wasn't seen, I would feel isolated and depressed. And I would probably start yelling at all of you that, hey, I'm right here.
Sure.
But again, they're hiding their lack of need for things. So they're not going to yell it really loudly. They're just going to retreat unto themselves and remember the times that they used to have that was vital. And they're going to live in a world that's really not relevant. And so bringing joy is certainly something we can do with small things, just occasional gifts. You know, sometimes I'll buy something for my mom and she'll say, well, what is this for? Well, it's just because I wanted to give it to you. I mean, more of us need to be aware. I don't think any of us adult children, intentionally make our parents feel isolated or unloved or want to dive into their loneliness and make it worse.
Sure. Well, just a simple statement of saying, going back after a phone call, I'm thinking just the statement, they're fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. You know why? Because it's easier for us, the adult children, because we know we can continue on with our schedule for the week. If we don't feel like they're fine, we've got to rearrange our schedule. We've got to make sure that you make time for them. And it's not that we don't want to, it's just life keeps ticking on. And so we have to be intentional with this. If you're going to leave them at home, you have to be intentional with the daily contact. If not, you'll lose them along the way. And that's what we don't want to have happen, because so many of these things are simple. Like I said, a gift. Send it to their house if you can't take it to them, if you're not there. Mom, I'm just thinking of you and Dad, and this reminded me of you. A picture that's in a frame that the grandchildren have just taken, and there's so many new technology. You have this frame that can go directly to the grandparents once the picture is uploaded. So what's it called?
Aura frames, and it's fantastic. As soon as you take a picture, right from your camera roll, you can directly load it up to, and you can set it up on their Wi-Fi, so you don't have to be with them. So if you're out in Arizona doing stuff with your kids and an extended family, you can load that up to their picture wherever they may be in the world, and they get to see the memories that are being made right there with their family and your family, and they get to see it instantly.
Instantly. Spell that for those that need it.
AURA frames. Aura frames.
I would love to hear from everybody that you go out and buy one of those. I don't think they're really expensive. And my goodness, to think that mom could get that right away, and she's going to be sharing it with Dad, and they're going to be talking about how the kids have grown and how they haven't seen them in a while. And oh, that's so wonderful. That is exactly what we need to be doing, finding ways to connect. And there's so much technology out there, especially if you're living away from your mom and dad. Now, if you're in town, you can still do that.
Absolutely.
Because they may not be able to go sit at that baseball game to watch the grandchildren because it's just too hot. And, for my dad, he may not be able to sit still long enough to watch the baseball game because he's got other things he wants to be doing. So let's bring the baseball game memories to them right away. Of course, you can send it through cell phones and, through text messaging, but take the moment to include them. I still do that with my mom and dad on everything that we do. At 10 o'clock last night, I was sending 4 or 5 pictures of an event that we went to that they didn't get to attend for some reason. And I wanted them to know while I was there last night, experiencing what I was experiencing, I had you on my mind. And I hope this makes you happy. It's really just intentional. That's the way we drive out loneliness with the elderly.
I want to bring up the topic of intergenerational community. I know we've started a program at Ruck and Pratt back in the day, but pairing younger families with seniors, shared meals and gatherings and mentorship opportunities. Talk a little bit just about bringing the families in with seniors and the difference that can make.
It makes all the difference in the world. Inside our care communities, I understood the importance of this about 15 years ago. So when Liberty Ridge went up and we were able to create spaces inside that building that could connect people together, we've talked about this before, non-billable space, which most corporations that own these facilities don't want to do because they want to make the dollar off of every room. We carved out several spaces inside Liberty Ridge that would be connectors for families, one being a duck pen bowling alley. And so they can go have their game and decide if the children are going to win or if the grandparents are going to win. We also have some arcade games in there. We have a ping pong table, a round ping pong table. That's really cool. You should check out. We have a beauty shop and barber shop inside that area so that if mom and dad are up there getting a good haircut or a hairstyle, you can stop in. It's very inviting. So it's a world without walls is what I referred to it as 14 years ago, that we wanted to create a world without walls so that grandchildren weren't afraid to come and see grandparents living in a facility. They were excited to come. There's other spaces in the facility that would incorporate a routine for family connection. And so those younger families that are coming in, they look forward to that because, number one, those children are really what they want to see, right?
Yeah.
Taking time to color with them, bring the coloring book with them, let them color with the grandchildren, bring their favorite milkshake. I know my dad loves for us to bring the coffees or the milkshakes. Lots of times we won't finish one and we'll drop one off at his door half drunk, but he loves it that way. Finding candy that mom might not be able to get out to go get, but you wanted to drop it off for her. Donuts. I mean, there's so many things. It's small, but it's so important.
Well, I want to bring up I kind of said inviting seniors to meals. Meals are such a big deal for the senior population. That's one of the things they look forward to the most, a really good lunch or a really good dinner. And how rewarding it is. Now, I'm probably out of the norm here. I've spent a lot of time with the elderly growing up, right? But how rewarding it is and how simple it is to, if you have an elderly neighbor, invite them out to dinner with you and your family, and how rewarding that moment will be for you to sit down and listen to their stories and get to know them on an individual level is super rewarding because I've done it, and it's one of the most magical things that you can partake in, and how much of a difference it makes for that senior.
Well, absolutely, but also the individual that's doing it. We have so many young church families that write to me and say, I took your advice and I've got my children now volunteering with the independent living at Liberty Ridge, and we are loving the relationships that we're making. What they're doing for that senior is invaluable to the loneliness and social isolation that could be there. But they're also gaining a friendship and a relationship that will teach those little children an appreciation for our seniors, which we really need to do for the future generations.
Mom, as we end the show today, sadly, we're out of time. We had a wonderful discussion today. I think we brought up a lot of great points. I know you like to end each show with a quote and a final thought, so take it away.
So, guys, if you take one thing from today, it is that loneliness is not just a feeling. It's a serious issue that requires intentional attention.
And community doesn't happen accidentally. It has to be built.
That's right. And God designed us for connection and for fellowship, for relationships. And when we step into that design, we don't just survive, we actually thrive.
So take this week, look around, and see who may be feeling alone, and see what you can do about it.
Because no one should have to walk through life alone. I want to remind everybody, let's reach out to our senior neighbors. Let's see what we can do to help with this whole topic of loneliness. I want to leave you with a verse today. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, "Two are better than one. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up." Take the time to notice the seniors around you. Be present, be loving. Take the time to help them up because two are better than one. Thanks, everybody. Reach out. Let's make a difference in the life of some of these lonely seniors. I'm Vickie, and until next week, I'll see you right back here around the table.